Biggest question I get, which is probably our biggest compliment, is where was this when I was in high school? I can't tell you how many parents have told me that, and it makes me feel really good. And probably the second biggest compliment, which I mentioned earlier, and we get it on our YouTube channel, is why can't my teacher explain it like this? So I want to be the person they go to when they need simplicity and speed, and I just want to finish my math homework, prepare for my test, and I want to do it without a long, boring textbook and a boring lecture.
You have tuned in to The Root of All Success. This is episode number 292. And it's hard to believe that we're this deep into doing this podcast after we started recording in December of 2020. But thank you for listening. Today I have Don Sevcik with us as our guest. We're here at Smokers Abbey in Gallatin, Tennessee. Big shout out to Joshua Smith and his crew for allowing us to use their space for recording these podcasts. If you've watched these podcasts on any regular basis, you know that we do a lot of in-person shows and we go to different places from time to time. So big thanks to Josh and his team for letting us come in. But Don, thanks for flying in from Chicago today to be on the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
So it is really beautiful here in Nashville today. It's going to be in the upper 70s, not normal for mid-March. I know this won't be airing until later in June, but what was it like when you left Chicago this morning on the airplane? Was it cold?
It was cold. About 37, so it was brisk.
Oh, yeah. Well, we're at this place here in the Nashville weather where it's going to be, who knows what's going to be tomorrow. It could be 30 tomorrow. It changes a lot here in Nashville. So MathCelebrity, this is your company, MathCelebrity.ai to be more specific. And, of course, these days AI is all the rage. But you started this 17 years ago. That's a long time to be. Of course, you didn't call it AI back then, but that's what it is. It is kind of artificial intelligence. And you've got 8 million students and parents who visit that website annually. When you started it, did you have any idea that many people were going to start using your product?
If you told me that we were going to get 8 million people without spending a dime on traffic 17 years ago, I would have laughed at you uncontrollably. But it's nice. I mean, when I started, it was just, can we get a couple people to the site? Can we get them to play around and actually use it for tutoring? And then to watch it go from 1 or 2 people a day to 5 to 10 to 100, and then in the 6th year, a couple million, it's mind-blowing.
So you made a point there that you didn't spend any money on traffic. So that's 8 million visitors, no spend on traffic. How do you even do that?
91% is SEO. So what happens is either on Google or Bing, when a student or parent needs help, they're in trouble on their math assignment, they'll type in either something like algebraic expressions calculator, or in the last few years, Google's actually given us a bonus. Somebody will type in cosine of 60 degrees. Now, Google will have their calculator up at the top, but they'll also have calculators on their search. And so if you click the result that goes to our site, it automatically runs the problem. And so 91% of the 8 million visitors we're getting come from SEO. The other 9%, 10% are both social media and word of mouth.
Yeah. Wow. So what was it about math that made you say, I want to do a math online calculator AI thing? Because you've been in the corporate field for a long time. Was math always your thing? Or is this just hey, I bet people need help with math?
Yeah, I graduated with a BS in math, and the way I started this site was about 17 years ago. I was working a boring corporate job as a programmer, and to branch out, because every year you get your annual review from your boss, you get the raise and the bonus, and my review would come back and say, Don had a phenomenal year, and your raise is 3%, and that didn't track with me. Like, if you see that over and over and over again, you ask yourself, like, how can I make more money? Like, you can't get a better review than this. So instead of whining about it, I said, why not branch out and make some money on the side? So I started tutoring people in person on a site called Wisant. So 1 student turned into 2, 2 turned into 4, 4 turned into 6 within 2 months. I was married at the time with the job, so I couldn't scale that any longer. So I asked myself, how do I scale this? I'm out of time. There's got to be a better way. Meanwhile, back at the day job, I was working on a project with a team in India, how to calculate American pension plans, really boring stuff. My boss sent them a big 300-page guide on here's everything we need to build. This team in India looked at it for about 20 hours and they weren't getting it. So I said, let me try something. Let's take all the formulas from this pension plan and this big 300-page book, put it in an Excel spreadsheet. But the twist was, when you type in the numbers, like when the team in India types in a number to calculate the pension, in the cells next to the numbers, it would dynamically update the math. So you could see the step-by-step math. We sent it to the team in India and they said, oh my God, I understand everything. This is so simple. And when I saw their reaction on camera, when they saw that, the light bulb went off. Why couldn't I do the same thing with the math tutoring? Why couldn't I take all my wisdom from math, put it on a site, you just type in the problem, get what you want, and then I don't have to be there. And that's how it started.
What year was that?
That was 2007.
Holy crap. Man, that seems like a lifetime ago, doesn't it?
Long time ago. Back when I had hair.
You know, I've only known you since you haven't had hair, but I've seen pictures. I'm like, oh, you did have hair.
Yeah.
All right, so math has kind of been your thing. You were good at it, and you started tutoring. And then that thing happened with your company, with the folks in India that needed some tutoring on how to do the pension plans. When did you say, okay, I'm going to create MathCelebrity as a thing? Was there a moment where you said, this is what I'm going to do?
About 4 weeks after that incident with the team in India, I was sitting with my wife watching the Oscars, and the person hosting the show was talking about how these celebrities roll up in the limousine. There's a red carpet from the Oscars to the limo. The celebrities get out, they wave, they take pictures, and then they're handed a gift bag with something like $30,000 worth of swag in it. And all these people had to do was show up. And I turned to my wife, I'll never forget, and I said, we should do that for math. What we could do is roll out a virtual red carpet. The students show up. They don't have to know anything. They don't have to check in, sign in, put their problem in, and we basically roll out the mathematical red carpet for them. Here's all the steps. You could save your problem. Here's quizzes, everything. All you got to do is show up. And we could call it, I don't know, like MathCelebrity. And my wife turned and she said, that's really good. So I registered the domain in July of 2007, and I built some really ugly calculators. But once I had the concept operationalized on the website, and you could put your problem in and click the button and see the steps, I can't explain. I saw the vision. I said, I could see students coming to this thing, dropping their problem in, getting everything what they want in seconds, and being done with the homework.
You've also written 5 books. How does writing compare to doing math, or do you see them complementary?
Yeah, I think the number one thing about writing is it forces you to clarify your thinking. So if we're sitting in a meeting and I have an idea or somebody has an idea, that's great, but it's easy to just blurt something out. If I'm forced to write it down and organize it and clarify it, that sharpens my thinking. And so I've done that both with books and MathCelebrity. If I have an idea, I either write it on a whiteboard or I write it on a Google Doc, step away for about a day or two, let the thoughts marinate, and then go back and refine it. And that's exactly what I've done with the books. I think the biggest compliment I ever got on 2 of my books was, this is a subject that's above my head, but Don writes it at like a 6th grade level so that anybody could understand it.
Tell me a little bit about your books. What was the first one, and what are the concepts that you talk about in the book?
The first one was, I was getting so many people asking me, how did you start MathCelebrity? So I said, I'm going to split the book. Half the book is how I got started. The second half is almost 150 pages of shortcuts, tips, and tricks for how to solve your math problems faster. My second book was probably my most popular. That was called Free Traffic Frenzy, how to get 150,000 monthly users without spending a dime on traffic. And the biggest thing I did with that book to improve on the last book was, I don't know if you've heard something called Flesch-Kincaid score. It's a readability score that the US Navy did years ago. But you take your writing, you drop it into the Hemingway editor, and I try to get it down to 6th grade level. Because when you get it down to a 6th grade level, people just glide over the words. Because if you write above somebody's knowledge, like their knowledge level, it confuses them and they think, I can't trust this person's using big words. But if you can take a complicated subject and bring it down to a 6th grade level, everybody trusts you. It's amazing.
Well, starting an online company, an AI-based company, and making that succeed is no small feat. You've done that, and it's been around for a long time. I'm sure there were some moments early on where your vision almost got derailed, just obstacles you ran into. Can you tell us a little bit about maybe 1 or 2 of those instances where you almost gave up early on?
Yeah, probably the second year. I mean, I was a decent programmer, nowhere near where I am today, but I was I'd say below average. And so as I'm fumbling around trying to build this thing, I didn't really know much about websites. I knew about algorithms, but I couldn't quite quantify it in the code. So as luck would have it, there's a guy I work with from Prague, Czechoslovakia, who was a genius programmer. And I used to tease him because he would work at our day job, and then he would go home and he would work on a side project. And I was like, you just worked 9 hours. Why would you go spend more time in front of the computer? And it wasn't until I did the same thing a couple months ago that I said, first of all, I'm sorry. And second of all, I get what you're doing. So to answer your question, I hit a wall I think the second year I started tracking every search people ran. And so my first version of the site was you would type in a concept, not a problem. You would type in like matrix or equation. We would send you a list of calculators, and then you would have to type the problem in and hit the button. Not the most efficient thing. Well, one day, I think in the second year, I saw somebody actually typed in a problem. Instead of asking for one-step or two-step equations, they typed in 2x minus 9 equals 31. And I said, how am I ever going to be able to do that? So I sat in my office in the basement for a couple hours Googling, and I found something called regex, which is short for regular expressions. That's pattern recognition in code. And I'm reading through this article, and I wasn't getting it. So I called Jim, was his name, from Prague, and I said, here's what I want to do. Can you help me? And he was able to simplify it in 4 hours, what would have took me probably a month. So to have somebody as a mentor who's been there before you was incredible, because he was so wise with programming. He was able to shorten my learning curve by a large amount.
AI, as I said a minute ago, is all the rage today. ChatGPT is ubiquitous. It's everywhere. All these other models coming out, Claude, Gemini, I can't even name them all. Those are three off the top of my head. But there's also a lot of skepticism around AI, especially when it comes to education. Educational departments, as you know better than anybody, they're skeptical to take that leap, which on one hand makes sense because our education system is usually a decade behind anyway. But this seems to me, as not necessarily a totally casual observer, because I know a little bit more about this than the average person because I've talked with you a lot about it. But on one hand, I realize that they're going to be delaying getting access to this or embracing it. But on the other hand, there are probably some legitimate AI concerns about this. Have you addressed any of that with MathCelebrity to say, look, this is good and safe for students to use? It's not going to lead them the wrong way?
Yeah, I mean, we get that question sometimes are you going to steal my data? Are you going to develop solutions that may not be math-based? Like, what if the AI they always use the Terminator example, right? What if AI just starts thinking for itself and turns your math site into a monster where it's just feeding kids the wrong material? And my answer to that is we differ from ChatGPT and Claude in one specific way. ChatGPT and Claude take billions and billions of math problems and they scan them and they drop it in a database. So every time you go to that site and you run a math problem, it's got to comb over billions of records for the intelligence. Now, they have an advantage over me because they can extrapolate problems that maybe I haven't built patterns for yet. But the trouble, to answer your question, is there's something called hallucination. So they can hallucinate solutions, which you've seen, where they might get the steps right, but the answer is completely wrong. Or when people ask about historical facts, it throws in like a political slant. So the way we've solved that is we don't do any database extrapolation. All I'm building is patterns, which goes back to that regex. An example is if I have a number, a sign, and a number, I build a pattern based on that. So all I care about is there's two numbers and a sign. Once I detect that, I know you want an operation. And I have my calculator set where the AI is not thinking for itself. All it cares about is patterns, and then it goes right into a solution. So we're insulated from the hallucinations because we're driving the pattern how we want. We're not letting the machine think for itself all the time, if that makes sense.
Now, you serve clients, students, parents all over the world. So this is not limited to United States or Europe. But educational departments and how we teach math is different from country to country. How do you address that with MathCelebrity?
I'd say that there's two challenges with the global model. The first is the languages, which we're working on. But the beauty of that is human nature never changes. So, for instance, there was a kid in Oregon the other day that says, show me multiples of 25. 36 hours later, somebody in Spain said, enséñame múltiplos de 25. Same thing, different language, and the same linguistics. So the beauty is, if you can pick up the language, there's only 2 or 3 ways that most people across the globe ask for a problem. Once you detect that and identify the language, the rest is easy. The second issue was just more pattern recognition, right? Because if people enter problems different ways, you have to account for the different ways they're entering it. But once you have the pattern, and I've seen this, like every calculator, there's 4 or 5 ways people ask for a problem, like the same thing a different way.
Well, languages would be, of course, very different to go from country to country or area to area. But math is the same everywhere. I mean, 2 plus 2 equals 4, no matter what language you speak or what country you live in. So I can imagine that the math celebrity part of that, other than what you just illustrated, is it can go anywhere. It's universal. Am I right in that assumption?
Yeah, I mean, with the exception of, I believe, Mandarin, most of the languages, the numbers and signs are the numbers and the signs. But back to I just thought of something. You mentioned teaching math different ways. About 7 years ago, one of the challenges we faced was some people learn what we call the traditional way, how you and I grew up, which, you do long division. But the other big one that dominated North America was something called Common Core. So the parents had come to me and said, Don, we love the traditional method, but my kid's getting marked down. They get the right answer in class, but they're not doing it the Common Core way. It would really mean a lot if you could build the Common Core method and the traditional method and give us an option to pick. So I spent like 6 months building that, and the parents were really happy because now you can solve the problem 2 different ways. Mom and dad can look at the traditional way, and the kid can look at the Common Core way, and now they don't get penalized in class anymore.
So going back to the AI part of this specifically, AI can be a huge benefit to educational systems, and we've already seen that, and you and I have seen that, of course. But there can also be a detriment, and there can be some hesitations that people would have. Do you believe that AI tutoring will ever replace human tutoring?
Yeah, great question. One of the big questions we get from educators and administrators is, how do I know my student's not going to use this to cheat? And my answer to that is, they take the test in school, so you should have control over the websites. You can shut my website off, you can shut off my competitors. But my other answer to that is, if tutors and some of the teachers were doing their job or handling their business, I would be out of business. So I think the AI tutor is very valuable because there's the speed. First of all, there's the speed factor. So the biggest complaint we get from students on our YouTube channel, which is a compliment to us, is, I wish my teacher explained it like you did. So simplicity, speed, and eliminating the fluff. Because nowadays, I mean, I'm sure you know, mom, dad, and students have what's our attention span down to? I think it's like 8 seconds. So if you don't capture their attention in the first few seconds, you've lost them forever. And so AI brings the advantage of, type your problem in. You don't have to sift through a bunch of results. It's just, here's how we do it, step by step, and you're free to move at your own speed.
Well, I want to take just a second to kind of break into the show just a little bit and let everybody know that Math Celebrity is the sponsor of this episode, and I want you to go check it out. So whether you have a student, whether you are a student, or whether you're just curious about how this thing works. 8 million people use this thing every year, and it's really phenomenal. There's an app that you can put on your Android or your Apple device. You can use it right on your Chrome browser. There's even a Chrome browser extension that you put on there. You can click on it, go straight to it, and do math up at the corner. You put in any math problem, and like Don said, it's super fast. It is the fastest one on the planet. It's not the only one out there, but it is definitely the fastest one on the planet, and will show you immediately all the steps, and then you can share that. You can share it on Facebook, you can share it on X, you can push it out to other people, let other people see it. So here's what I'd like for you to do. Go to MathCelebrity.ai, check it out, and Don's contact information is in the top header of that page. Send him an email. Say, hey, heard you on the Root of All Success. Use your stuff. I love it. And if you're in the education world, if you're in edtech, let's talk. Because Don wants to talk to you about how we can get this in the hands of more people, get more students, where they can get tutoring lickety split. So go to MathCelebrity.ai. Big thanks to Don for sponsoring this episode. So thank you. And thanks for coming in from Chicago. So let's keep going here. Beyond just tutoring, what's your vision for Math Celebrity? What do you want to see happen and to accomplish with this platform?
I like to be the math tutor for the world, where I want to be as ubiquitous as Google. So I need math help, I'm going to Math Celebrity. I want to take a quiz and get grade in time, I'm going to Math Celebrity. I would like to take as much market share and spots in people's heads as a trustworthy, fast, simple math solution as possible, and just let it grow from there.
So in order to achieve that, what do you have to do more? I mean, you've got quizzes that are on there now, which we haven't really talked about. There's quizzes you can go in and it'll generate a quiz. It'll give you step-by-step instructions on how to answer those questions. What do you need to do to make that happen, a reality?
Back in 2023, we kind of hit a plateau of growth, and I asked myself that very question. And as luck would have it, you and I met. I think I went on your website, and I had worked with some consultants before and coaches, but a lot of it just kind of fizzled out. But when you and I spoke, I think it was about 15 minutes in late 2023, something just clicked. And I knew if I want to get to the next level, I can't do it all myself. I was trying to, too much of the hero syndrome, right? I'm going to put this thing on my back, I'm going to take it in the end zone, and we got this. But when I look at the people that I admire who have made huge progress in business, Silicon Valley management consultants, they always had one or two really good mentors or coaches. And so the answer to your question is, I had to find a coach to help guide me, right? Because I can't see, I'm too close to the product to be able to step back and see things. And so when you and I decided to work together, I think that we made big leaps, right? Because we found B2B solutions, we found more things we could do with the algorithm. But also, the whiteboard sessions you and I had were they were extremely valuable, because I stopped working so much in the business, and instead with you, we were able to work on the business.
What do you hope to see with Math Celebrity in terms of its integration into the classroom? Do you want to see classrooms and math teachers all over the world say, hey, go to Math Celebrity today and run these 10 problems, and then I want you to how do you see it integrating with the classroom?
I want it to be part of the core software that's used in classes. So when teachers sign on to their administrative screen and they have all those resources, I want to have a logo there that you click and go. Or if teachers are using other products, I want to integrate, like Whiteboard, for example, or Google Classroom. I want to be always there as an extension or a tool. I mean, we just developed an API a couple months ago and a calculator widget, so that you could take a small little script, embed it on your website, run a problem, and it will bring all the math from my site and put it back on your site and make it look like it's yours. So if we get enough people doing that, we're going to be integrated in people's math tutoring lives every day.
What do you hope Math Celebrity's long-term impact on education will be?
I want students and parents to say, the biggest question I get, which is probably our biggest compliment, is, where was this when I was in high school? I can't tell you how many parents have told me that, and it makes me feel really good. And probably the second biggest compliment, which I mentioned earlier, and we get it on our YouTube channel, is, why can't my teacher explain it like this? So I want to be the person they go to when they need simplicity and speed, and I just want to finish my math homework, prepare for my test, and I want to do it without a long, boring textbook and a boring lecture.
So you've written 5 books, you've started a successful company as an entrepreneur. What do you hope your legacy will be? Is there something, have you thought about that?
Long after I'm worm food in the ground and my kids are standing there maybe reading the eulogy or just thinking about me, I want them to say, Dad took risks. He didn't just settle for a day job like most of the people we know in our lives. He took risks, and he was able to plow through a lot of barricades, with help, of course, but he found the right people, made the right moves, and even sometimes he failed. He was able to make a dent in the world and get millions of people to a product that started off with 0 users.
So what do you think, looking back over 17 years of success in building MathCelebrity.ai, What is the one thing that has unlocked that success more than anything else for you?
I'm a big fan of mental models. So if you've ever watched Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger just passed, mental models are basically a way to think about your thinking. There's hundreds of these. If you buy Charlie's book or Warren's book, they talk about them. But my favorite out of them all is something called inversion. So inversion asks, and if suppose I want to learn a new skill or build a business, most people start and say, how would I do this right? Like, what do I need to do to make $1 million or get 10 million users? Inversion says, how would I screw this up? Find all the ways you'd botch it and just not do that. And the reason why that's so powerful is because you keep subtracting, 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 and taking away until all that's left is all that's right, right? Because addition by subtraction is so much easier than adding new skills, right? You just take away until you have what the core of what you need to do. And so I've used inversion over and over and over again. Like if we've hit a plateau or I try something and the traffic drops, I ask myself, how would I screw this up or what did I do to screw this up? And just take it away. And oftentimes when I subtract instead of add, we start making that climb again.
I think it's appropriate that the math guy used the law of addition by subtraction as an example of what's unlocked success for you. How do you define success? What does it mean to you?
I forgot if it was Earl Nightingale mentioned in his product. It was something like it's a meaningful pursuit
of a worthy goal.
Yeah, meaningful pursuit of a worthy goal, or rephrased. I love Kaizen. Can I get 1% better towards my goal every day? Right? If I can do that, I think I'm successful.
By that definition, do you consider yourself successful?
I'm going to give it might be a weasel answer. Successful with traffic and growth without spending money, unsuccessful with sales, but getting better. So,
all right, so put your entrepreneur coach hat on for just a second. We got a lot of people that are listening to the show that want to do something that you've done. They want to start something that they've never done before. Maybe it's revolutionizing some other educational topic, or it could be unrelated to education. What's your best piece of advice for them?
Probably you're going to need to block out a lot of the voices around you. Assuming you don't have a coach and people that are at or above your level, the biggest thing I had to deal with was not just naysayers, but why are you doing this? Why can't you just work the 9 to 5? You got the pension, you got the 401k, you're living good. If you're good, you don't have to be great. And it's tough, right? Because if you have a lot of those people around you, it's almost like a gravitational force pulling you down. You almost have to have a force field around you. When you have the vision, there's going to be a lot of people that question it or ridicule it. And if you could just put the blinders on in your ears and your eyes and just see the vision for the first few years, you'll get where you need to go.
All right. So what's your favorite math concept that most people overlook?
Let's go back to inversion. Check your work. I mean, we took a survey years ago. Why are you using MathCelebrity or why do you need help? And the answers blew me away. We got 5,000 answers. They all fit into 3 categories. One was, I don't know how to start a problem. I don't know what I'm doing. Second was, I know what I'm doing, but I need more confidence. I want to see somebody else do it. But the third one was, I do everything right until the end and I screw up a sign or a simple little calculation. So inversion would say, what are all the ways I would screw up this problem? First and simple one was I wouldn't check my work. I'd get all the way to the end, and if it's a multiple choice, if you could just take 3 to 5 seconds to plug that in, the answer in, and see if it tracks. I found that students, if they did that, if they have 2 or 3 minutes at the end, they can get another 3 to 5 problems back on a 30 or 50 question exam. That's big.
What is the biggest myth about math that you wish you could debunk?
That you have to be born to be a math person. Math is a language, and language has rules and linguistics. There's rules to follow, but there's rules you can break. And if you look at the most successful math students, some of them I've seen, their IQs weren't that high, but you know what they did? they took practice tests over and over and over again. So one of the best scores I've ever seen on SAT had an average IQ, but you know what he did? He'd skim the book, take an SAT practice exam, he'd get a 65. He'd filter out all the concepts he did bad on, go back, study those only, retake the exam, get a 72. Rinse and repeat. 3 or 4 times he got to top 5 to 10% average IQ. So repetition is a big one, and the second is eliminating the thought that I'm not good at math. Like one of the things I tell my students on my TikTok and YouTube videos is mock up a report card, put your class number on there, class name, your name, and A+ is the grade. Put a copy on your phone, copy in the bathroom, copy in your bedroom where you'll see it 5 to 10 times, and guess what? After 2 weeks, you start believing that.
That's good. What's another subject that you wish you could instantly master?
Sales, by far. By far. That's been my biggest weakness. And you and I have talked. A lot of that is mindset and do not make assumptions. Because I mean, I still work a day job. I have to sell for budgets at the day job, and I do it effortlessly. But I struggled the first 9 months when you and I made the pivot into B2B. Like, I have to go talk to people cold, ask them to try out my new product. And one of the mistakes I made was they don't want to talk to me. If they don't answer, they don't like me. And then once I got over that mindset, a lot of the people that didn't answer me on the 3rd or 4th time would answer on the 5th or 6th. And guess what? I didn't get back to you not because I don't like you. It's because I was on vacation, I was sick, your email went to junk, or when you followed up with me, you explained the concept better than you did the first time. And so if I could eliminate assumptions and go in it with the assumption that they like me and they're going to buy the product, it all kind of works out.
Well, congratulations on the success that you've built over the last 17 years, and I can only imagine where this is going to go. And maybe somebody listening to this show will be a key to taking it to that next level. So how could people get in touch with you?
You can go to MathCelebrity.com, or if you're on social, I'm on LinkedIn the most. It's linkedin.com/IN/DONSEVCIK.
So look up Don Sevcik on LinkedIn. But you also have a YouTube channel, TikTok. You're out on social media showing math problems and how to solve them. So you're actually doing tutoring videos. Besides just Math Celebrity, you've got your own channels that are talking about how to tutor people in math, right?
Yeah, and it's the handle on all those is Math Celebrity.
Yeah, so just look up Math Celebrity. Well, Don, thank you so much for flying in from Chicago, being here on a beautiful sunny day in Nashville. I'm excited about what you've built, and the world needs this, and I'm glad you built it.
Thanks for having me.
Well, there you have it, another very successful entrepreneur about his journey of building an AI technology company over 17 years. And as you said, as he said there at the end, still having a day job and making this thing work, but 8 million people visiting this site every year. That's unbelievable. So go check it out, MathCelebrity.ai or MathCelebrity.com. It takes you to the same place. Go download the app, put it on your phone, check it out, and make sure you tune in again when we talk with another successful entrepreneur. But before we get to the end, we got that new segment that I've been doing on the past few shows, JD's Public Service Rants. Are you ready? Let's go. So this is the part of the show when I talk about something that I shouldn't have to talk about, but clearly I do because people still do this crap. So if what I'm about to talk about applies to you, consider yourself on notice. So you're in the grocery store and you're strolling through the aisles and suddenly you hit a human roadblock. Someone standing dead center, cart sideways, completely oblivious to the world around them. Listen to me, folks. This isn't your personal shopping trip. There are other people in the store trying to buy beans. They're trying to get their stuff and get out of there, and you're blocking them. You're keeping them from getting what they need to get done. So park your cart to the side like a normal human being and get out of the way when people are coming down the aisle. If you wouldn't stop your car in the middle of the highway and just stand there, don't do it in the grocery store. Move it. Keep moving. I hope you enjoyed these little rants. If you've got one that you think I should be doing, send me an email. I'll put it in there. But in the meantime, don't be that guy. Well, thanks for listening. This is The Root of All Success. I am the real Jason Duncan. I'll see you next time. And remember, Jesus is King.
Attention business owners. Attention business owners. Feeling burnout from running your business? Uncertain if you're nearing burnout? Take our free 10-question business burnout test at businessburnouttest.com to discover where you stand. With just 10 quick questions, you'll learn how to immediately begin making changes to regain freedom and success. Cut your daily operations time in half. Improve your quality of life and prepare your business for your future exit without losing revenue or profit. Visit businessburnouttest.com now and take the test. Thank you for listening to another edition of The Root of All Success with the real Jason Duncan. If you've enjoyed this week's episode, visit therootofallsuccess.com to access the show notes and other helpful resources. Follow Jason on social media at The Real Jason Duncan. See you again next time here on The Root of All Success.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.